Hello, welcome back to my channel. I hope that everyone's doing well. I'm gonna go ahead and get this video started. Hopefully you guys can hear me on YouTube and also on TikTok. What I'm basically doing is doing another how to draw active poses using my OCs as references. So in this little short stream, I'm gonna show you guys step by step using this pre-recorded video and how I drew my OC and just drawing them in more active positions and poses. So I hope that you guys like and enjoy. First off, I'm gonna start by getting YouTube set up so that way I can respond to you guys in the chat and also see you guys actively live. There you go. And now TikTok is up. There we go. And I'll go ahead and align this just ever so carefully. Perfect. I wonder if I could just make it just a wee bit bigger. There you go. Now in this video, I'll go ahead and break it down step by step. And it's going to be the same process that I used before, where I'm using basic shapes just to draw and do the sketches for each of my artwork. So in this one, I'll be drawing my OC Kimi, and she's a very active person. She likes to go work out, swim, do all these other things. And so just kind of step by step, I'm showing you guys how to draw your characters from the back, how to draw your characters from the side, and also how to draw your characters from just different angles on how they can curve their bodies. For this first video, I'm going to just show you guys how I ended up doing the sketches, and then in the next video that I'll play, I'll show you guys how I ended up inking out everything, just like how I regularly do on my other streams and my other videos. But yes, when I was drawing Kimi, overall I was trying to think about an overall guideline and perspective for her, just to make sure that everything's clear. Whenever you're coming up with a character and just trying to design their whole personality and just an outline of who they are as that person, it does take time. So for her, I tried to estimate a nice goal in mind just to kind of how I'm pinning out. For instance, her body shape. As you can probably imagine, she is on the thicker side, and that's just usually how I like to draw most of my characters. And at the same time, I also like to focus on different resemblance that they can have with other characters that you might want to come up with, just so that there's a good focus and just so that they have something to match well with each other. I know lots of the times when artists are drawing, it is difficult, just like how most people can relate, to figure out what is it that you want to have your characters set apart from the rest, and also what is it that you would want them to really focus on as you're trying to create their overall story. So even drawing her out and with the rest of my characters, it didn't take time. It did take time just because I am still in the overall working processes of it. And anytime I do my little short stories or just short, comics of them, I try to make it as brief as possible before I actually go back and then just really get into the whole fall of things. But yeah, Black Sapphire, thank you so much for following. I appreciate it a lot. Oh, and for those of you who don't know, I stream on both TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. So currently right now, I'm streaming on both TikTok and YouTube, and I'll be streaming on TikTok and Twitch later tonight. So yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. But as I was saying before, it is really important to just kind of figure out the guidelines that you want to make for your art and also for the characters that you have in mind. It's not always easy writing a story. I know that sometimes I'm not always the super best at doing storytelling. However, At times, I do very much want to make sure that everything is as precise as I want it to be, just so that it's not too much confusing anytime someone else looks at it. Coming up with your own ideas can 1010% be fun, but at the same time, it's not always easy trying to come up with ideas after ideas after ideas. And one of the things that I am trying to learn to do is animation. And the thing about animation is that will always just have to take time. And even drawing after a while does kind of strain my hands a bit. However, I can only imagine what it would be like to do animation and then having to draw the same positions, the same moves, and the same markers over and over and over again during different folds. So it does get a little bit difficult as time goes by. However, with proper practice, I believe it does get a lot faster once you have your overall hang of things, but at the same time, it does end up being a bit difficult to be persistent about it. So for example, I did download the software Blender, and overall it is pretty straightforward. However, just doing everything over and over again does take time. Krita, the software that I'm currently using right now to draw these sketches, it also does have an animation feature. However, with its animation feature, it does kind of freeze from time to time, but after a while figuring out how to use it and also manipulate it as well, it's been incredibly helpful throughout my whole entire drawing process. And then the one nifty thing about Krita is that it does have an animation guide that is available to you guys. So if you type in learn how to do animation with Krita, or just typing in Krita animation, step by step they'll have different guides for you guys to learn, and also different ways for you guys to draw simple things like a drawing cycle, turning a character's head, moving a character. And so I used those, and it did end up being very much helpful throughout my entire process of drawing. So, as a matter of fact, I think I'll go ahead and pull it up right now, just while the video's playing, just so that you guys can get an overall feel of things. And as you can see here, as I'm drawing my characters, just trying to guesstimate and figure out each poses. As I've said before, this is simply just the rough sketch or the outline of it. For this one, I kind of wanted Kimi to have a bit of a kind of a kooky pose, her stretching and just doing different dynamic poses, while also bending different parts of her body in order to get to the right position that she wanted to. So now what I'm doing when I sketch, I don't try to be too much in details with my sketching. I'm a lot more flowier, and also I try to put in just a lot more effort into doing these types of different dynamic poses. One thing that I learned as an artist is not everything has to be traditionally perfect. It's good just to experiment and move the body around, especially when you want to figure out what it is that you want your character to look like, and also the different types of positions that's going to help your character build up itself and look a lot more unique. So now, Krita animation tutorial. There you go, I think that's a better view. Alrighty, so then I think I'll go ahead from the beginning. So as you can see here, and what can I do with this one? Oh, very quickly. So for this little brief sketch, I decided to draw Kimi just kind of in a different pose and position. As you can see here, this is her head, her shoulders, her abdomen, and also her lower body area. Anytime that you're trying to draw from a different perspective, say for example, if you're looking up at the character and the character is looking down from you. So using circles is kind of the best option for me anytime that I draw this, because you always have to keep in mind, if you are to kind of look up at someone, you're not going to completely see the top area of their chest or the top area of their abdomen, but you are going to see the majority of their lower half just because you're in that position. And so when I ended up doing this short sketch and drawing it, I do recognize that this is one of the mistakes I believe I made as I started inking out the process. Because at this point, it does kind of look like she's bending down and kind of peering down at someone. Overall, the perspective that I was trying to go for her was to kind of just draw her, or this part of her body just kind of half and half, if that makes sense. So, and I'll probably show it in a different video. Whenever you're trying to draw your characters just from a different perspective, it's always good to kind of imagine half of your top part of your body, half of the middle part of your body, and then just the majority of the lower half of your body anytime that you're drawing this position. So that was one of the mistakes that I used just for this sketch of Kimi. However, in the other video, I'll go ahead and show you guys what I mean. But yes, you also have to think about it as more of a tower, and then that's going to overall help you get that perspective whenever time you're drawing. Perfect. Alrighty. Now very quickly, as I'm drawing this, I'll go ahead and show you guys what I meant when I said that Krita has animations available. And so I did listen to some of the comments that you guys had in mind. If you guys want to learn about animation using Krita, you can just go online with Krita and type in Krita animation tutorials. Just simple animation with Krita. And then from there, they'll show you guys exactly what you want to learn step by step, how to use workflow, use the storyboard, and also different types of tips and guide on how to use their animation software, and also the different types of scenes that you want. Especially, usually what I try to do is I use the walk cycle using Krita, and then I'll show you guys step by step the different types of tools and things that you need in order to create your animation using Krita, and then also create the different types of walk cycles as well. One of the things that I'll try to do in another video is probably animate using Krita and just going step by step. I'll either do this in a stream or I'll do this in a video that I'll post on YouTube or on Twitch, and I'll show you guys step by step. And we'll maneuver it together using the different types of animation tools that Krita has available, so that way we can learn how to do animation together and also draw. But yeah, that's how I first started learning animation. And then what I want to do is switch over to Blender, but so far I haven't seen, or I'll probably look up right now if Blender itself has any animation tools or guidelines. Blender tutorial. There you go. Okay, so in this next sketch, before I show you guys Blender, I think out of all of my sketches, I really liked this one the most, just simply because I will use more of the box method in order to draw Kimi's overall position. Lots of artists kind of use this method in order for them to kind of figure out how it is that they want their characters to be positioned. And just for this particular pose, I found it very helpful. I was able to kind of imagine or structure out how is it that I wanted Kimi to be positioned. For this one, I used different types of blocking elements, such as this cylinder, different circles, cubes, trapezoids and squares, etc. And for this sketch, I was able to do a lot more flowy action in order for me to kind of figure out the short ridges for when I was drawing Kimi. Overall, it is very helpful, and I very much enjoyed how I kind of put her entire viewpoint into perspective with this one. This particular sketch was very fun because I was able to kind of make her a little bit more flowy, and then I gave her a lot more personality as we're moving forward. So this method of sketch is also available for you guys if you want to learn it. I kind of just look up different types of tools and resources in order for them to kind of really go in and draw different types of positions. For the hands, especially when it comes to these sorts of sketches, I do like to simplify a lot more, just because when it comes to drawing hands especially, again, practice makes perfect. And one of the things I did say that I was going to do later on my channel is just continue to do hand practices and feet practices, just because I know that that's going to be the most difficult. So I think something that I'll go ahead and set aside for my YouTube as I'm trying to build it is doing cute little tutorials, just how to draw eyes, how to draw hands, how to draw feet, and then from there we can learn together step by step on how to kind of put everything all at once. Because the first step into being the artist is just figuring out your own art style and your own methods for how exactly you want your art to look like, and how exactly you want everything to be positioned as well. Just learning how to draw and just starting is just the first step to getting everything that you want down, and also putting everything together as a whole. So for this sketch, or this next sketch, I was kind of going a little bit back and forth. I wanted to simplify Kimi's design just a bit more and just really get into detail how exactly that I wanted her in her next position. For instance, lots of the sketches that I practiced were mainly her standing up, but it's also good to get some good practice into drawing your characters doing simple actions like laying down or sitting, just because getting those different types of poses down, it's also very important if you want to get into the practice. There we go. So as I fast forward a little bit, I'll go ahead and show you guys just the different angles and the different positions that I have her with. For this one, I had her in a nice little push-up angle, just because, again, if you're trying to develop a nice key line for your character, you also have to get into the habit and get into the practice of drawing them in a certain position, especially if that's what their overall function is. For example, Kimi is a very sportsy character, so of course I'm going to draw her doing push-ups, and also in other sketches and actions I'll go ahead and draw her doing sit-ups and more in different videos and also in a different stream. So very simple. I very much simplified everything. When you're drawing someone doing a push-up, you also have to keep in mind the front area is mainly what you're seeing. You're not going to see much of the abdomen or much of the lower area either. And then anytime your character is doing a push-up or in this position, you have to remember our bodies are not going to be in a 100% 180 degree angle, which means it's not going to be constantly straight. Most of the times, your body is going to have a little bit of a curve to it anytime that it's doing some type of exercise or push-up. And so just for Kimi and this little sketch, that's what I was trying to have her do. Make sure that I put her in a proper position, so that way it looks like she's doing her push-up instead of her just kind of floating and levitating into the air. So now, perfect. And then, like I said, of course, once I got the overall sketch down, once we start inking everything, I'll go more into detail on just the different types of sketches and the different types of styles that I use in order to create this overall position. There we go. And then now, as I went ahead, I kind of fixed that one in. Her hands are going to be very simple, just little cute triangles, just to make sure that they're bent a little bit, just to make sure that we understand when you draw a push-up. The entire palm is going to be face down on the ground, but it's also going to lift a little bit because it's lifting the rest of your body into place. Now for this next sketch, I just went ahead and tried to use the same method as I did before. For this next sketch this time, I'm going to have Kimi facing straight into the camera. But this time I'm going to position her legs and her feet just at a different angle. Overall, I wanted to be just relatively very simple with this character. And also make sure that I wasn't doing too much in order for her entire vibe to kind of pull through. Anytime that you come up with different, designs or character sheets, say for example, if you're telling a story about that character, you want to draw them not really much so doing everything, but just draw them just in different perspectives and parts of the day. For example, in this particular sketch, I'm going to be having her wake up and just kind of getting up in the morning and yawning. And so I just kind of drew her in that position. In the sketch after that, you'll also see how she is when she's asleep, she's exercising, when she's traveling, or when she's just doing any type of mundane activity, and so on and etc. So just when you're coming up with different types of ideas and also having a feel that your character's design needs to speak more, just go ahead and experiment what it is that you want your character to be doing and how you're going to envision or practice them doing that sort of action. Alright. And now while this is sketching in and playing, another little quick sidetrack if you're trying to learn animation as well. So I looked it up, and Blender also has their own little animation tutorial. If you go on Google and type in Blender animation tutorial, on the Blender document website, what'll pop up is called Animation and Rigging from Blender. You'll go ahead and click on that link, and just like with Cricut, it also has like a nice step-by-step guides on what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to draw. So if we just click on the first one, just introduction to animation, just moving the whole object, it will go ahead and give you a breakdown and step-by-step tutorial on how it is that you can use Blender in order to create and do your animations. It's more of a textbook guide to kind of show you which different types of tools and settings to use in order for you to animate, and also different types of key guidelines that you can use in order to create your different sorts of animations. If you go over here, and let's say for example, in action, working with actions. Here it is right here, a complete step-by-step guide and explanation on how it is that you can use the different tools and also different buttons that are available on the Blender software in order for you to do your animations, create a guideline for yourself, and also create your different types of storytelling. Here are some more technical riches, especially since Blender is majority for 3D animations. If you haven't checked it out already, there is a movie called Flow, and I'll show you guys in the next break time. There is a movie called Flow that was created purely using Blender, and it did win an Academy Award. And so even if you're trying to just do a simple 3D animation with that, you can still use the same designs to learn to create and just manipulate your art to get it moving and everything. Oh, and just a reminder, both Krita and Blender are for free, so you guys can go ahead and download them and use them in order to get that practice into both just drawing and animation to kind of help yourself get into the practice for being a good artist. Of course, you're not just going to be a good artist just by downloading the software itself, but just trying to figure out and use the tutorials and guidelines that they have available in order for you to get into the practice. It's very helpful and will also let you guys know that it can be very useful as well, especially when you're just doing simple short sketches such as this. Krita is overall a very easy software to use. It's not overcomplicated or anything. They simplified it a lot just so that you can have a nice quick breakdown in order for you to do simple things like sketches, drawing your art pieces, and also other works of art as well. Just like I showed you guys in the last stream and in the last videos, just simply using Krita, I was able to create all these different pieces of art, and at the same time just maneuver and learn how to do the beginning workings of animation as well. But of course, just with any software, do your extensive research, just because it does have its up and downs here and there. But if it does help you get into the overall feel of the software, it will prove to be very useful. Alrighty, now in this position I was drawing Kimi just kind of laying down and sleeping. So anytime that you kind of draw a character like laying down like this, you always have to think about their body in a box position, and then anything on top. Say for example, since this is a female character, I drew her chest area just kind of laying on the box, just so that it's a lot easier to perceive it in that manner. For a guy character, it's basically the same thing, except you would think more so the build of it. So if it's more of a beefy or bulkier character sleeping, then you can also use the same references as the female character. However, if it's more of a skinny or just a slimmer character, you don't have to create that much of a hump in order to draw them laying down. You can also use the same perspective and the same guideline as well whenever you're trying to draw them just in different positions. Again, I use a square or a cube shaped. I used a sphere shaped and cylinders while drawing this character sleeping or laying down. And I was really able to get them to kind of become more lively instead of having them be more flat as I'm drawing the sketch. So here I'll just go ahead and fast forward a little bit. I was just trying to kind of move everything along just so that I would have the space to draw more sketches of Kimi. So for example, here's the side angle that I was kind of telling you guys before earlier that I was drawing her in. So here her body is not going to be completely straight. It's going to move at a curve. And then of course I just wanted to have her in a more dynamic pose and position. Instead of her arm being straight down, I just decided to draw it a bit up. Her body pivoting just to the side, so that way you can see more of her abdomen and then more of her waist. And just more of the gluteus maximus in the back. Not all of her body parts are going to be showing, but you'll see that I'll be shrinking this down just a little bit. So as I'm sketching her along, I'm also trying to keep in mind the action that she's doing. So for this one specifically, it'll be as if she's just coming back from the gym. And with that, I'll also have her kind of just moving her body a bit at a pivot, so that way you guys can see her entire full body instead of just having the pieces cut. Anytime that you're drawing someone, you always have to think about it more as rigids and as a puppet. So as you can see here, and it's the same thing that I did for this overall body as well, as I'm drawing Kimi, these little circles in the middle are going to be the knees, and so these little cylinders are going to be the legs and the thighs. And then you have to think about it more as like building blocks for how you're going to put your characters together. So I don't know if anyone's ever purchased or bought those animation dolls or those drawing dolls, just where they show you just point by point what to think of anytime that you're trying to draw the character, in order to give her that flexibility and that dynamicness, in order for them to move and look a lot more natural flowing. In this sketch, you're not going to see it with everyone, but just for Kimi, I just decided to alternate in between from a messy sketch to a cleaner sketch for each of them, just to get into the good practice. So now for this one, I'm going to fast forward just a little bit. There we go. So in this position, I have Kimi sitting down and kind of having her legs crossed. Anytime that you do your sketches or just trying to get into a good flow and the habit of things, it's just kind of good to step outside your comfort zone and get into the good practice of having your characters be more flexible into what they're doing. Perfect. Now, some things I just try to do every now and then is just move my characters a little bit up and down. Character sheets like this, I do highly recommend people doing, just to get into the good habit of drawing things whenever it is that they're trying to learn how to do art, or also try to simplify things as well, kind of just to alternate in between how it is that you want your character to look like. So these are going to be overall just very simple sketches, and then once we start doing the inking out process, you guys will see a lot more detail on how I tried to draw this character and get her more into place for the design that I have in mind for her. Perfect. Another thing that I'll go ahead and get into the practice of is doing more background colors and positions. So that way you guys can get into that good habit as well. So here, as you see, I kind of decrease the occupancy a little bit just so that you guys can go ahead and have the nice see-through sketch. So anytime that you guys are trying to draw over your sketch, one of the things that people do recommend is just having the occupancy just a little bit lower, it's good for you guys to see your sketch, but it's also to make sure that you guys are able to have also good line art as well. One of the mistakes, or just one of the things that people tend to realize anytime they're trying to draw over their sketching, every time that they use this tool, is that their line art sometimes doesn't always end up the best, and it looks a little bit more scraggly instead of more straighter art. So that is something that I did learn, and I got more into the habit of using. However, for this one, I do admit I could have decreased the occupancy just a little bit, just because, yes, we want to see the sketch, but we also want to make sure that we can barely see it, so that way we're able to actually see our line art in order for it to look a lot clearer anytime that we're going in and draw. Perfect. So now, fast forward just a little bit. So as I began to draw my line art, as you can see, I went very much just to make sure that my lines were thick enough in order for it to stand out. And then, of course, as I'm following the little sketch underneath it, I then began to draw in the details such as Kimi's hair and also the position that she's going for. So my overall take was just to have her go to the gym and just be doing her stretches after her workout. So I wanted to make sure that her hair is very loose and flowy, and then also her gym clothes as well, just to kind of make her breathe out while also putting in the key features that I want for her. So as you can just see there, what I ended up doing was kind of just making my sketch invisible, so that way I can make sure that my line art looks clean and also everything matches well together. See, so it's all about just using the sketches underneath as a guide and to make sure that everything looks applicable as I'm going ahead and sketching her out. Go. So as you can see, I'm just trying to carefully make sure that everything is set into place. I also kept in mind just about her hair as well. So just for this one, as I said before, I wanted her poses to be very dynamic and just and just very loose fitting as well. So for this, I had her arm and her hands just underneath her hair. So she's kind of holding her hair up while she's stretching out her legs. And just kind of stretching and enjoying her cool down as she's after her workout. So as you think about this sort of stuff, you also have to keep in mind just what are things that I can draw differently or that's going to kind of help my character really stand out from the usual poses and positions that I did. Perfect. Now for this, just decided to have her as wearing a shirt slash tank top, just so that you guys can see more of her arms and also more of her abdomen and the muscles as I begin drawing that out. There we go. Alright. And now another thing that I kind of just decided to do is also simplify her hands as well as I'm doing the sketch. So her just kind of tying her hair up and just flipping it back and forth. Or not really so flipping, but just holding her hair up as her body is stressed out and her legs are a little bit more out, just to kind of show each different, I guess the best word is just each different position that her body is in. So I wanted to just be a little bit more creative while also just trying to express just the position that she's in. Perfect. Now, during this next phase, as I'm drawing just her abdomen, just remember that we are viewing her from the side. Not too much, but just well enough. Again, think about it as a nice cylinder, and then remember, everyone's back has an arc. Excuse me, an arch, or at least it should. And there's going to just be a little bit of a curve or dip, just to have some distance between the top part of her body and the lower part of her body. So from here, when you think about that, as I draw in her clothes, you also have to think about the curve that your body is going to have down. So like I said, when you draw someone just from a different angle or position, you're going to draw it as if you're imagining a curve. And then from that curve, you're going to have your character just kind of pop up a little bit. So that way, you'll see like different areas in their waist and their love handles. So that way, this part of her body, which is near the love handles, will be shooting straight down towards this leg. And the same thing will happen for this other leg, as it's shooting straight horizontal, because it is being lifted up and then being placed on a bench. Perfect. Now, of course, for this particular sketch, just because I did want her to stand out more, usually I always draw my characters in leggings or just pants that covers the entire leg. For this sketch, I wanted to show more of Kimi's muscles, and so I just kind of had her wearing shorts, so that way I can also show you guys just a little short tip for how to add light muscles onto a character, and also have the knee exposed as well, so that you guys can understand just these little lines can make a whole difference to your drawing anytime that you're drawing. So again, I just imagine her legs as cylinders. Anytime I'm trying to really go into details with it, I did kind of go a little bit back and forth and up and down with it, just because I wanted to show her legs to have more of those exposures. By doing something as simple as having those lines present, it really does give the illusion for Kimi's muscles. Just like having these little blocks present for her abdomen gives off those little impressions, and just that little short work in order to show off her abs. Most of the time, not everything needs to be in an excruciating deep detail anytime that you're doing these things. However, just having that in mind anytime that you draw, you begin to find out actually does turn out to be very helpful. So I'm going to fast forward just a little bit, just because for that particular sketch, as I was trying to draw some her shoes, I kind of just went around and did a bit of a shortcut. But for that one, it was just simple sneakers. And then for this sketch, as I have Kimi with her hair just kind of all over the place, you'll then begin to see how I ended up doing her hair and just kind of having it drawn layer by layer. And having to see how helpful that was when I was having her lay down. Again, when your character is in a certain position, you don't want to overthink everything. You just want to kind of have it evolved and be as simple as possible. So for her laying down, that's just what I thought about. Her hair being layered down and just flowing down from her face as she's kind of taking that nap. And then also just for make it as a short guide reference as well, just because her hair is going to be covering the top part of her face, it'll mostly be her nose or her mouth that's showing, and not really so much of her eyes. Just because when you're napping, your eyes are already closed, so you don't really go into the details with that. Go. Another pro tip that I highly recommend anytime that you guys are drawing is to also think about head shape and consistency. Sometimes when I'm drawing, I always try to make sure that it stays consistent, especially when things like how their face, head, and eyes are positioned. Most of the time, especially when you're drawing them from a different angle, it can be a bit difficult trying to make sure that everything stays symmetrical. So one key guide that I kind of use is to always have your character be in a very specific head shape, so that way you can always use it as a reference and just constantly go back to it. So for example, if your character is always in a coconut head shape, always think about that. Or if your character has like a football head shape. I don't really know if anyone has watched Hey Arnold, but that's also a nice cute little reference guide just to go off of, just so that you don't always have to constantly having to go back and use as reference, but also so that way your artwork stays consistent. There we go. Another thing to keep in mind, and then once again, depending on the position that you're in and depending on I guess the way that your character is posing. So for right here, you'll see me struggle a little bit trying to draw her clothes as she's laying down. Remember, the movement and the flow of how your character is moving is going to determine the position for how you should draw their clothes. So because she's laying down, she is going to be flat. However, her clothes are going to be dropping down in the direction that she's laying. So not really more so it's going to be flat and falling straight down, but more so it's going to be falling down at a curve because it's following where her arms is going down, and then it's also going to be following the direction of how your body is positioned and how your body is moving. So that's also a nice thing to kind of keep in mind just so it doesn't cause too much confusion. And I believe later in the video you'll be able to see it as I then start to kind of draw her out as she's laying down. There you go. Now for her hands, it was a bit of a struggle just because I was trying to figure out what would be the best position for how her hands should be while she's laying down. So you'll begin to see kind of step-by-step guide on how it is that I drew her hands. And basically when I came to the top part where her fingers are going to be coming out, I kind of just imagined these little dips as holes, and then as I began to draw, I started to draw circles to be a nice little cute guideline for how they're going to have her hands push forward. There we go. See? So how I drew her thumb, I did like overall. I actually loved how I was able to get her thumb to just kind of flow down a lot easier than before. But for her other fingers, I tried to do the same thing, but ultimately what I did was just use circles as guidelines to kind of help me figure out that position for her. There we go. Perfect. There you go. So as I began to do it in this sort of thing, I just used circles to kind of be my guide, and then after that I just thought of it as like a slide or a curve in order for us to get it to that shape. But it actually started to look a lot better And so I just kind of continued to do the same method from the other fingers, and then just kind of use the eraser tool to just erase the lines inside. So yeah, when you're coming up with these things, it's best just to simplify as much as possible and try not to overthink it in order for it to match a flow real well. There you go. Oh, sorry. I'll go ahead and fast forward. There you go. So as you can see here, as I started erasing, the fingers begin to look a little bit more cleaner and just a lot more natural. Except for this finger, I was having a bit of a hard time, but as I kept going in between and did the cleanup, it started to look a lot better. And one thing that you do notice as you have fingers, we do have those lines just at the inside of our fingers that kind of indicate the marks for us. So for this one, I just decided to have the fingers bent at a sort of angle, just to have it look a little bit more natural. There we go. And just of course for that, remember any software, no matter what it is, always save as you go, because you never know what might happen. So as you can see here, as I started drawing, just the ripples in her clothes. Remember, you're going to be drawing down from a curve instead of straight down from a line, just because you want to have your clothes following the same position that her arm is following as she's laying down on the bed. just more into details. So as you can see, I also did the same thing on the other side. But because her arm is going to be folded and it's going to be resting on her abdomen right here, I'm just going to end up drawing the top part of her clothing and then the rest of her arm as they begin to rest on her body. There you go. And just for the position of her hand, I just wanted to use the same method, the same oval circular motion. Just as I used in the other photo. So actually, if I'm not mistaken, this part, I just decided to simplify it. But to be honest, I might end up going back and redoing it just because for the finished result, it did look a little bit more unnatural and it kind of looked like she had baby hands. But I also kind of want to thin out this area to make sure that whenever she's positioned, it looked a lot more natural. There you go. So as I went more into doing the cleanup, like I said before, just whenever you're doing or practicing with the hands, it's good just to kind of have a nice little outline and don't be afraid to erase or just go more into detail as much as you need in order for your features to show. And also keeping in mind the position of where your hand is going to be. So because this is her left hand, remember the thumb is always going to be on the inside, and that goes with both of your hands. Your thumb is going to be on the inside and then your pinky is going to be on the outside. Here we go. Alrighty, now as I began to go a little bit more into detail and just kind of drew her face, again I wanted to keep it as simple as possible with her facial expressions. So for the nose, I just ended up drawing a light triangle just to kind of give it that in-depth impression, and then I'll fast forward just a little bit. I believe in the next video you'll then get to see just kind of how I went more into detail with her mouth and kind of having her expression be more from there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just repeat the same process with the rest of the sketches. Again, just have her hair be a bit more messy and disheveled. And as you can see, just me going more into detail on how I added her layers of hair and just how I decided to kind of go more into that depth with it. There we go. So it's like I said before, anytime that you're drawing an outfit on your character, you always have to think about the position and also the flow of how the outfit is going to be laying on the character's body. So for example, the wrinkles on her t-shirt, they're going to be just flowing down, and of course because she has a little some bust area right here, you're also going to be drawing it on top of it as well. So just following the direction and then the flow of where your character is positioned. So since she's standing up again, you're going to be drawing the lines or the wrinkles going down, but it's not going to go straight down. It's going to be at a curved, and then it's going to be going down like that. go. And then once again, of course, just keep in mind the different positions. So for example, it's the same as the other sketch. Her arm is going to be pivoting back, and then her hand is going to be behind her neck, just because she's waking up, and then she's also going to be just standing a little bit more bented than upright. Her hair is going to be slowly, there's some that's going to be falling behind her, and then some that's going to be falling just above her arm, just to kind of show that she's first waking up. There you go. And it's also going to be the same position from whenever you have your characters doing actions such as gripping their clothing. You also want to make sure that everything kind of falls into play, and you're showing off just the texture and the skill of having it to look a little bit more natural anytime that they're grabbing onto your clothing. So just like right here, because there is going to be tension where she's grabbing her clothes, you want to have some lines indicating that she's also causing that sort of wrinkle to occur in the clothing as well. There you go. So now you also want to make sure that you're trying to do the same thing with the legs. Of course, don't put too much and don't add too little. We're just going to have her legs crossed, just to kind of implement where her clothing is stopping as well. fast for just a little bit. Or, perfect. Alrighty, now this one is pretty much done. Now for the next video, I'll go ahead and show you guys just the rest. Sorry, let me just make it a little bit bigger for you guys to see. Perfect. Now as I continue on, with the next sketch, it's just the same process over and over again. Remember, when you're drawing the hair especially, you're also going to be drawing it just on top of the position of whatever your character is doing. So because she's doing push-ups, I had some of her hair falling down and then some of her hair going to the back of her. There we go. There we go. And now, just as I said before, we always want to make sure that we're drawing everything just in the same direction and also in the same position as well. So because she's kind of pushing her body up, remember you also have to keep in mind the flow of motion. Her clothes are going to be flowing down from her. And just leave a little space or a little gap while the rest of her clothes are going to be resting on her back. That's kind of pushing or leaning her up. So basically what that means is you can go ahead and just grab, say for example, a pen and just put a sock on that pen and just hold it up. As you can see here, once you hold something up or once something is actually being pushed up forward, you're going to have that piece of cloth that's going to be hanging and just resting on top of it while the rest of the cloth is going to be flowing down. So I kind of just had that same overall concept, just drawing her in this position to make it easier to understand how it's supposed to look like and also how her body is supposed to move. Now for this push-up position, I mainly had her body more at a pivot than from the standard push-up. And because it's more at a pivot, you then begin to see more of her lower abdomen and her lower body than you normally usually would. There we go. So this little tip or short guide is going to be the same thing for how you end up drawing your feet, or just how I ended up having her shoes in this position. Whenever you're doing, or say for example you have your lower body in this position, especially around the feet, think of it as your toes that's helping you support that weight, the middle part of your feet that's going to be helping you push up, and always make sure that you have the heels of your feet also up in an up position as well. There you go. So for this one, I kind of wanted to give her more of a goofier position as she's doing her push-ups, just to kind of give it more that cartoonist expression. So this was more of a simplified design than the rest of them, just because I wanted to have it a bit more cartoonish, to have it in a different art style, while also making sure that it expressed how she was pushing everything up. There we go. And just to kind of fast forward a bit, sorry, I was trying to figure out which sketch to do next. There you go. So now in this next sketch, you'll then begin to see, I'll fast forward just a little bit. Why this one is my overall favorite position of sketch. I was able to draw her hair flowing a lot more down, and then also have a little bit more fluidity in how I had her body. So this one, I guess you can just imagine her either at the airport or just kind of hanging around doing her own little special pose. It was a lot more natural, and I had her arm and her hair kind of just in the right position that I wanted. And I was able to show a little bit more of her expressions as I later began to draw everything out. So this one turned out very well, and I kind of was overall very proud of this one. But like I said before, something that I am going to do next time is just have a head shape guide for all of my OCs, just so that next time that when I draw them, it stays consistent with each other. And there's a nice reference for myself that I created to kind of push everything forward. go. So just having a lot more emphasis on your drawings kind of goes a really long way, especially when you're trying to show the expression for each of them. There you go. So for her clothes here, I just kind of decided to have her wearing a nice warm sweater, while also having a little bit more of her midriff exposed, so that way it can kind of align up when I end up drawing her having her pants. So this way I just kind of wanted to have her very comfortable as the sketch went on. And then it also kind of made it easier for me to go more into detail with her abdomen region for how she's kind of in this position and in this pose. There we go. There we go. So it's going to be like the same thing that I did in the previous sketch. I had her wearing shorts just so that you can see those little tiny details with her legs. So if you're trying to do a nice simple sketch, just doing something as simple as these little lines right here for her knees, and these lines right here going down for her calf muscles, it'll just highlight more into detail for those strings and muscles as well. So it gives her more of that athletic look instead of having to go too much into detail and draw every single muscle. That's ultimately going to be a lot of work later down the lines. But if you have her doing a certain action, It'll help when you want everything to pop up together. There we go. For the hands, I'm just going to simplify it as much as possible. Her hand is going to be resting on an object, so that's why it's kind of drawn flat right there. So just doing little things to simplify your artwork as much as you can, while also just trying to make it look more dynamic and normal. Finding those little small techniques is very helpful, especially when you have them in different positions. So yeah, here I'm just kind of drawing something to kind of complement her position a little bit, while also keeping the characters in play. So I'll go ahead and just fast forward it a little bit, so that way we can move on to the next drawing. So for this one, I am going to fast forward just a little bit. As you can see, and then you'll be able to see more into details of what I kind of ended up doing with her. So for this position, I just decided to give her a big sweater to kind of give everything. And as you can see here, I did have a lot of fun because then I was able to express and go more into detail with each of the lines. And just get into the habit of having everything a bit more flowy by drawing the folds and the wrinkles. And then once I started adding her pattern, there you go, which was something very simple, just drawing lines following the curves of her body and having it go straight down to kind of emphasize what she's wearing. So you can do this with anything, and just simple things like that kind of really does bring your design to life. And it does express like the overall vibe of how she's positioned. There we go. There you go. So adding simple designs like this kind of really does put into perspective and make your art pop out. So then when I started adding these lines onto her jeans and then adding these little lines onto her jacket, it then creates texture for her, and it also kind of helps everything stand out a lot more. next sketch, it's gonna be the same thing. So again, because I have her arms up, I did the same position for her clothes. So because everything's kind of lined up, you're gonna have everything else kind of just flowing down. There we go. There you go. Sorry about that. Just like I said before, Krita does have a little bit of a hiccup. So it will kind of glitch out and exit out of the system. However, you can go ahead and just make sure you save everything so that way nothing gets lost. Just the golden rule once again, save as you go. her feet, and this one I just kind of decided to have a little bit more fun. Apologies, you can't see it over my avatar, but there you go. I just kind of wanted to mess with her toes a little bit while also simplifying everything out. Alrighty. Now for this next sketch, I just kind of had her more into detail. And I'm just going to have her hair flowing down for her body. She is going to be covered from head to toe, so don't worry. And as you can see, I just kind of had her in the towel. And also her hand resting down on her. Just how everything kind of hooks everything into play. And it just has her body flowing even more. Now for this position, I had her in a towel, basically covering everything from head to toe. And of course, it's going to be the same thing because it's still the same piece of cloth. You're going to have it just kind of wrapping around and curling around the body while it's also hugging the character tight, showing off the wrinkles and also the position and where the character is leaving and where the character's body is kind of positioned around. So I kind of wanted to make the cloth very furry just to kind of give it that texture of a towel. And in doing so, that kind of made everything stand out and really go more into detail with each position. There you go. And then for these next steps, I just kind of went more into detail, just with everything else. And then finally, for the last pose and position, it's going to be the same thing with the clothes, just having everything float down and follow the same pattern. Here you go. Alright. And now this sketch is also pretty much finished. And then overall, that kind of does wrap up our stream. But for those of you who stuck around with me this long, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you haven't already, please feel free to follow my other social media link in my description. And also, if you want to follow again with me during my other streams, you're more than welcome to go ahead and check out my YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, etc. So as this video goes ahead and exits out, I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward a little bit to where I draw her socks. But overall, I just tried my hardest to practice these sketches and then just show the overall experiences that I have with these characters to kind of emphasize and give them as much personality that I possibly can. So these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sketches that I did for my original OC Kiwi. And if you also feel like, go ahead and check out my Patreon. You can join for free. There you'll get the behind the scenes updates and other sketch works that I've been doing as well. Just to kind of narrowing down and just getting everything into place with everything else. And so you guys can go ahead and look back at this stream and just practice these quick, nice sketches to kind of have the position overall and taken care of. And then from there, you'll be able to see just more and more into the details and the practice that I kind of put into just creating the overall vibe for these characters and then bringing out their personalities as I sketch. But yes, for those of you who kind of joined me until now, I just want to say thank you so much. And I hope that you guys enjoy sketching with me and just seeing what I'm up to overall. But yes. Alright, and then last but not least, always save as you go, because you never know what might happen and you never know what might lays ahead. But yeah, have a great day, everyone. Like I said before, I'll try to sketch later on tonight. And then from there, I'll play on another video or I'll do some other sketchings on my Twitch, so that way we can follow along as well. Alright, have a great and beautiful Monday, and see you guys later. Bye-bye.